Hello, I'm Toycat and welcome back to the second channel video. Today we're going to talk about flags, and yes, I know that means someone's going to make the fun with flags joke, but that's fine because I really do think flags are one of the most interesting and iconic part of any country's imagery. And one of the best examples of this is when you think of the United Kingdom. This country right here, you probably picture this flag right here. This is the Union Jack. Well, it's technically the Union flag when it's on land, but that's a whole separate distinction. When you picture this thing right here, you probably picture this country. And there are so many countries where the same thing is true. When you picture a country's flag, you picture the country, because the country and the flag are kind of irreversibly linked. The identities are merged together, and because this is true for so many countries, it raises the big question, how did these flags ever come to be? How could a flag ever change? Because, so many national identities are kind of tied into these things. And the simple answer to that is that every flag had to be created and was changed at some point in the last few hundred years. The UK flag, for instance, it's over 200 years old, and it was formed because the English flag merged with the Scottish saltire, which combined with the Irish saltire to make what we have today, the Union flag, because it's the union of all of those countries, even if one of those countries isn't in the Union, but that's a whole separate thing. But this is how the flag was created, but it raises the question, if countries can change their capital cities, they can change their currencies, and even the name of the country in some cases, how many countries have changed their flag in even the past 100 years? And the answer to that question is many, and I think it'd be kind of fun to go through some of those today, because one of the most iconic flags in the world is the US flag too. In the same way you picture this flag, you picture the UK, you probably picture the US when you look at this one, right? Like, yeah, that flag with its red and white stripes representing obviously the 13 original states and the 50 stars representing the 50 states that are currently in the Union, except maybe you didn't notice, this isn't the current US flag, this is the 49 star version, this is the real current US flag, so there's a fun one for you right there. Not the real US flag, tricked you, because they look very similar. Let's be honest, once you go past like 40 stars, no one's actually counting those things individually, unless you literally have to. But the interesting thing about the flag of the US is not only the fact that it changed very recently. This was used in between 1959 and 1960. This was the one used with 48 stars, which was used for 47 years before that. Personally, this is my favorite old one, like 48 stars. It just goes a lot better in my opinion. 6 Rows of Fate works so much better in my opinion. However, there's a whole bunch more flags like, 46, this is kind of dodgy, and so on and so forth. Interestingly enough though, until just over 100 years ago, there was no official definition, until actually the 48 star flag, there was no official way that you had to display the stars, which means that some previous flags had multiple versions. This is one version of the 38 star US flag, this is another one for instance, you see the same in 37, and I think that's just really cool personally. So yeah, fun fact, US has had so many flags because the US is one of the very few countries in the world where you can expect the flag will change in the future. At some point, there will be a 51st state. When will it be? What will it be? That gets people, thinking controversially. But yeah, the US flag is one of the very few flags which has not only changed in the last 100 years, multiple times by the way. This was a change that happened in 1912. But like the 3 flags in the last 100 years is still a lot. But the fact that it's likely going to change again, and it's like tied to change the flag again, most likely, is kind of a wacky thing that you might not have considered. And a 51st flag star is just going to look messy, but it's worth mentioning. US flag changed twice in the last 100 years and will change again, but is still one of the most iconic in the world because it only changes one section of the flag, and usually in a pretty minor way. Like all 3 of these flags, besides the mild color differences for some reason, all look just about the same. So yeah, with that said, the US flag is obviously one of the biggest examples of ones that changed, but one that you might not know is actually interesting because the flags are used to represent political opinions. That's right, the flag of Belarus is one you might have seen. So Belarus, just to show you the country, because I know there's going to be some number of you, not most of you, but you don't know where Belarus is. It's a fairly large country from the former Soviet Union. So unlike all of the other countries in the Soviet Union, when the Union collapsed, they kind of held on to communism quite a bit longer than all the other countries. So rather than transitioning all the way to democratic capitalism, whatever you want to call the Western system, maybe you've got a bad term for it, but rather than transitioning straight into that, they slowly kept a lot of their communist stuff, and nowadays they have something a lot of people, maybe not yourself, would call a dictator. So this flag was implemented because the former flag, the 1991 flag, to 1995 was this one right here. This is what they decided to use when they were transitioning into being a fledgling country. However, when they kind of kept a lot of that communist roots in having, again, what is commonly referred to as a dictator, because they've had one president in that entire time period since this new flag. Okay, so this is the 1991 flag, this is the 1995 flag. The entire time since they've had this flag, they've had one president too. Over 20 years, almost 30 years now, of one president. pretty crazy stuff, but that's the kind of Belarusian situation. So the reason I mention all of those pieces of information is not because I think you should know more about Belarus, which you should. Interesting country, one of the very few like outcasts of like the EU and kind of trying to be an outcast of Russia at the same time. But the other interesting thing about Belarus is the fact that obviously they have this internal struggle with this flag representing like democracy and to some people representing democracy and freedom, and to this flag representing stability and their history. Because obviously, if you don't know, this flag was used in 1918. It was what Belarus tried to be when it first became a republic, and this is the flag they used under communism. So this flag, although it was their let's call it their independence flag, it's the flag that the not any Belarusian soldiers would use in the Nazi army. So in a way, it's kind of that big old debate of like, so which was worse, Nazi Germany or communist Russia? But like kind of like, or the Soviet Union, kind of like boiled down into like the flag debate. If you believe in the current regime, you like the current flag, it's great. If you don't like the current regime, you use this new flag. It's like, yeah, let's build a new identity based on that. And that's something you don't see anywhere else. You don't see two competing UK flags where it's like, oh yeah, this is the flag for the for the radicals, and this is the flag for the regular people. At least not on the same wide scale that you see in Belarus. So yeah, fun fact for you right there. Flag of Belarus, former flag of Belarus, and maybe soon to be future, if they ever change whatever's going on right now. Again, I don't have a vested interest in their flag one way or the other. Want to clarify right here, the Belarus flag, they can keep it how they choose to, because they actually, it's worth mentioning also, they did change their flag because of a referendum, but it was around the same time with the presidential stuff, so just keep that all in mind. So yeah, also, you can see there is a difference, technically speaking, between their current flag and the USSR version of their flag, the Belarusian Soviet Socialist Republic. But I mean, like, you can clearly see where the inspiration came from there, I think at least. So with that said, let's move into the next flag, another pretty popular one, because this right here is the former flag of Canada. That's right, Canada, which is famous for having, the maple leaf sign. It's one of the prettiest flags in the world. It's sad because Canada used to have a really nice flag too. So just in case someone's watching this video and they're like hyper-informed on the subject, they're going to say, hey Toycat, I'm watching this whole video about former flags that I know all about, just because I'm kind of curious. This was never the flag of Canada, technically speaking. And yeah, it's worth noting, this was never the official flag of Canada. However, Canada did not have an official flag until 1965, and because of that, this was the flag they used instead. It was a de facto flag, not an actual flag. It's technically just an ensign, but like, are we going to get that flag nerdy on it? Can we just say, look, it's flag shaped, it's flag sized, it was used in the position of a flag, what do you want to call it? And simple answer to that one is, I guess, a flag then. So, okay, the former flag, but actually an ensign, of Canada looked like this, and I find this to be a pretty weird one to look at, because the immediate thing you notice is like, okay, UK flag, red, same color, so the UK flag kind of like blurs into it. Look, the red line just goes keep across there. And also, why has it got like one of them fancy Ryanair logos on there? Like, wait, really? What's the Ryanair flag? And yeah, obviously, that's not actually the Ryanair logo. It's just that the this is the much better example. Ryanair logo, harp on the Canadian flag. So what I'm saying here, little bit of some stealing going on. So, in case you're actually curious, it's obviously not the Ryanair logo. It's much more widely known as the Ryanair logo outside of Ireland, but because outside of Ireland, there's two signals for Ireland. There is the Irish flag and there's the shamrock, sometimes used together, like in this flag right here. But obviously, Ireland, the actual coat of arms is this right here. It's just Ryanair is a huge airline, the most flown in Europe by quite a wide margin, actually. Fun fact for you right there. But let's focus on the Canadian red ensign. Let's teach you some flag knowledge, because why is the harp on there regardless? Like, okay, it's the coat of arms of Ireland, but what is Ireland doing on the Canadian flag next to the UK? Isn't the Irish saltire that? So, long story short, this is the red ensign that was used because it's got the UK traditional colony, where the top quarter is to represent, it is a UK, like you call it a vassal, call it a whatever, call it a colony, whatever word you're looking for, but owned by the UK indirectly or directly. And then this right here is the Canadian form of Canadian coat of arms. So there's two versions of this. There's the 1921 to 1957 version, and there is the 1957 to 1965 version. So they're pretty much the same, besides the fact that the the harp is flipped around if you look right here, and also the thing at the bottom goes from green to red. So, thing at the bottom, it's a three-leaf maple leaf. It's very similar to their current flag, and it represents Canada. What about the other four things, though? Because I found that to be really weird. Like, I recognized all of these, in fact. I went to a Scottish school, and the like crest of the uniform was that right there. So what this actually is English lions. This is, again, it's like meant to represent England. This is meant to represent Scotland. This is meant to represent Ireland. And this is meant to represent, long story short, there's a long story for what it actually represents, but it represents the French, effectively, coat of arms. So yeah, we've got England, Scotland, Ireland, and France, and then the UK, and then also a Canadian identity. It's a really weird mixture of like 6 different things in one flag, but it's basically to show the Canadian national identity. It's not simple, and that's true to this day when you think about it. The reason they needed to create their own flag and have an identity is because Canada is just a combination of different kind of provinces, you know, the former British North America, and because of that, things get pretty complex pretty quickly. That's why the flag changed from this to that, because they needed to have like a solid common flag. And you know, a part of me is sad about that. I love any flag with Union Jack in it, I really do. And it's kind of sad to see it change. I mean, but you know, all things must change, and apparently that includes the Canadian flag. So, just in case you're one of these people who watches these videos and you're like, Toycat, you've only shown off like 4 changed flags in this video. I hate when I watch a video that actually goes into details about things. I want no details. Here is the flag of Swaziland as it exists right now. Here is the former flag of Swaziland. Does that satisfy you? Are you good with that? Do you like that? Do you like when you watch a video and there's no added information, it's just the thing itself? Do you want a video to be a 10-second list that you click and then you're done? You don't want that, do you? So, I guess the person who comments that probably isn't going to get this far. But it's annoying, you know, when people like watch a video that's clearly 20 minutes, clearly is meant to be an in-depth dive where you can tangentially go off stuff, and it's like, oh no, I only wanted the thing that is going to take 5 seconds, and I'm watching the 20-minute video so I can be angry about it. Don't watch videos to be angry. Instead, watch videos to be happy about the former flag of Tuvalu, because this is the cutest change I've ever seen in a flag. They actually changed their flag and then changed it back. This was the flag that they previously changed to use. It is the 1995 to 1995 flag. It was used for 3 months, and the real controversy, this was a huge controversy in the islands at the time. If you don't know, Tuvalu is a very small island country in the Pacific. But Tuvalu basically is what the name means is you know, 8 islands together, 8 together basically. So one of the problems with Tuvalu though is it's actually 9 islands. So the current flag has 9 islands, but they tried to change it down to 8 to represent the name. Tuvalu, 8 together, 8 islands, we're all done. However, this is very upsetting because, by the way, if you want to know, here is what Tuvalu looks like. If you rotate that 90 degrees, I can't do that right here, but if you rotate it 90 degrees, you can see it lines up with the thing on the flag. I thought that was a cute little detail. But yeah, basically, Tuvalu, they changed it to be 8 to represent their name. People were not happy. They were angry. They're like, no, I want that star back. Do you see that star? That's actually, you can't see it with me right here. Do you see? Oh, let's just move that away. But do you see that star right there? Do you see that star that's gone missing? I am upset with that. I want that star back. And people were very angry. There was huge political pressure. Bring back the missing star. So you know what they did? They brought back the missing star. Happy ending, right? You know, no revolutions, just they introduced a new flag, and then they had to unintroduce the new flag. So with that said, and here's what Tuvalu looks like one more time. But let's move on to another fun example, because I'll bring me back, by the way. Hello, I missed you. So let's move on to another fun example, because this is all about how flags are codified. Because, like I said, how the US flag, all the way back here, technically speaking, the US flag has, what was not like, it didn't specify how to do everything. It was like 13 stripes, red and white, and then some stars or whatever. That's how they basically said you had to do their flag. So when Russia went independent from the Soviet Union, which I know is a weird thing to say given that they basically were the Soviet Union, they needed to, you know, write up directions on how to do their new flag, because the Soviet Republic flag was not good enough. And this is what they gave out. You might notice this isn't quite the Russian flag. This was the Russian flag from 1991 to 1993, and it was never officially flown, but it was the official flag of Russia. Despite Russia making this their official flag, they never used it, they used their current flag. What's the deal with that then? So, yeah, basically, it's the funniest story because it comes down to, like, every flag has to be codified into words at some point, right? You have to say, this is what my flag is going to be. So they said, okay, we're going to have the top, because, you know, everyone knows, the Russian flag, top third white, middle third blue, bottom third red. And what it's meant to look like is this, where it stings and it's the brightest colours. But when they wrote this flag, they were like, okay, so we're writing our flag, but we want to make it seem more bespoke and artisanal, you know, use fancy words like that. And one of the things that a lot of especially European coat of arms did, is they describe everything using especially fancy terms. So instead of saying green, you say vert, and a bunch of examples like that. So when they codified their flag, they codified it as white, azure, and scarlet. However, azure and scarlet, although they're fancy words for blue and red, they're technically speaking different shades of blue and red. So this was the flag that was officially meant to be used by everyone. No one actually did use it, even though it was their official flag. Instead, they used the white, blue, and red flag that you know and that stings your eyes, because nowadays they changed the law, and now their flag is white, blue, and red. Obviously, just to clarify, Russian words here, not English. I'm simplifying across. But yeah, that is how the Russian flag came to be, like a different color, but only technically speaking for 3 years until this flag, the one that stings, that burns your eyes, came back. And I want to also quickly mention, because I used the flag of Russia in a video last week, and therefore a few people, only a few, always point out the flags in my thumbnails as like, oh, this wasn't historically accurate. I find flags to be interesting because they are such an identity of a country, and there's something about seeing the Russian flag with the eagle on it that makes you, even though it's technically not been used since the 1600s, you recognize it as Russian regardless, and I find that fascinating. So another example of a country which wanted to distance themselves from their previous identity is Rwanda. Here is the Rwandan flag as you know it today. You might know Rwanda as a country. Let's be honest, you might not know them as a country. They have a nice airline, Rwandair, which I think is just a solid name for an airline, and maybe you don't know anything beyond that. Maybe you should know things beyond that. Go learn about Rwanda. Fun. There's your little challenge for the day. Can you find it in Africa right here? You got 4 seconds to point it out, or I'm gonna be upset. Oh, you didn't do it. Anyway, so let's stay on topic, because the Rwanda flag looks like this now, and they changed it in the 2001 actually, because their previous flag, and actually, let me tell you how they created their previous flag, because they created a flag and then they realized it looked a bit too much like Guinea's. Here is the flag of Guinea, and they're like, oh, it looks exactly like Guinea's. We need to make it unique. How do you think they made their flag different to Guinea's? You might have a few ideas spinning in your head. This is how they made their flag different to Guinea's. They put a big hole on it. No flag I've ever seen has lettering on it. This breaks all the rules of flag making, and it was the flag they used from 1962, their independence, 1961, sorry, their independence, to 2001, a solid 40-year stint. And so it's kind of tragic that this is their flag in the first place. It's such a bootleg Microsoft Paint. Like no one likes this flag. If you like this flag, let me know, but I don't think you do. I think you're being sarcastic. And the reason they had to change it, so to kind of go from lighthearted to, okay, it gets serious again. In 2001, they changed their flag because it became associated with the Rwandan genocide. And I'm just going to be honest with you right here. Genocide is not good. I'm going to come hard on that. Really, this is a controversial stance. Going to get a lot of hate for this. I am anti-genocide, so the new flag does not have genocide implications, and the old one apparently does. So yeah, genocide is bad, my official opinion. And this is kind of a downer to end on, so let's go somewhere more fun just for a bit, because New Zealand didn't change their flag actually. Their flag is this one, and still is this one, but they came very, very close to, just a few % difference in a poll actually. So I'm going to clarify my interest right here. Unlike the Belarusian flag, where if they decide on this flag or they decide on this flag, I don't have an interest in this. I think I do have a vested interest in the flag of New Zealand. I mean, just like a little one, because I love their flag. It's one of the most interesting and iconic flags in the world. I love it a lot, and they were going to change their flag very almost to this one right here. This is the silver fern flag as it was known, and this was the most popular of all the non-flag designs, such as this one. Basically, they were going to have a flag that looked something like this instead of this. So replace the Union Jack with a big old fern, because they have ferns in New Zealand and they wanted to do that. So what's the deal with that? Why didn't they? Long story short, they had a referendum, but the referendum was done very questionably. And although I don't agree with the subversion of democracy, what I do agree with is the New Zealand flag. Yeah, let's do it. And just in case I've offended any New Zealanders, which usually I don't. I like New Zealanders because they watch videos and they understand, that's a fun joke. Someone from every one of these other countries is going to be like, no, that's not okay. Whereas people are going to be like, that's fine. You can love our flag. You can love your cheap $5 New Zealand t-shirt. And that's what I love about New Zealand people. So I love you. I hope you love me too. Anyway, so just in case you are from New Zealand, something that you might not know is that the New Zealand ministry has a bunch of flags for each of their departments. And they actually had a New Zealand Ministry of Transport, which used to have a flag. And let me show you that flag, because this is a beautiful flag. But let's end on a beautifully bad flag, which is the New Zealand Board of Transport. So this is the New Zealand flag, top left, on top of this. So it's a flag in a flag in a flag. And by the way, transport is just a blue blob as far as transport is concerned. This is the worst flag I think I've ever seen. Can you design a worse flag if you tried? It's like if New Zealand colonized, you know, like Antarctica, an ocean, a really weird circle somewhere. Most bizarre flag in the world. At least if you'd kept this blue and made this light blue or something. There are so many ways you could have done this, I feel like, but this is just the ugliest interpretation of it, in my opinion. And yeah, there you go. Fun fact for you right there. Oh, by the way, fun fact, but just to finish off here, this has only been New Zealand's flag for 116 years. Do you want to know what their flag was before that? It was this one right here. There we go, full circle. Brought it all the way back around to the beginning. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something from it. I think flags are fun to talk about. Do you think so too? Should we do a whole other video on it? Or do you think, it's starting to seem like fun with flags, it's all terrible? Because I think every single pillar of a national identity, I find like the currencies interesting, the cities, all the things that define a country to outsiders are the most interesting little things. And flags, let's be honest, you might not like this, you might not like your flag, but a flag is what defines your country. If you live in Guinea, this is what defines you. If you live in Rwanda, to a lot of people, this is what defines you. And, or like, you know, at least is the first image for a lot of people. And that is why they're interesting. It's not just, oh yeah, this is an interesting piece of art. It's a piece of art that has to represent something. That's why some flags, despite this being a solid, you know, thing to have as your, you know, your logo for your website maybe, it doesn't work as a flag. And the reasons behind having images represent people, I find that fascinating. Let me know if you'd like to see another video discussing it with comments or whatever. Discuss this on Reddit perhaps. Actually, you know, I'm going to do this just as a fun thing, if I remember. I hope I will. Go to reddit.com/r/toycat. I'm going to do some form of AMA over there. If you have any questions for the next, let's say, 48 hours after this video goes live, ask them in that thread, and we'll answer them maybe. I think that could be kind of fun. So yeah, reddit.com/r/toycat. Also, there's a Flatter link if you want to support every video and every video of any channel you watch with a contribution or whatever. Thank you very much for watching this channel, and I guess I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.